What up? This is Sean, Lonegevity with the New Old Heads podcast. And we just wrapped up episode 440. We had discussions this week on a handful of things. One of the things was Timbaland and him wanting to create an AI artist. We did a big deep dive into that. We also talked about Lil Wayne's new album, the fall off, how bad it is, et cetera, et cetera. And we kind of wrapped things up talking about Doechii's statement at the BET Awards in relation to the ICE protests in LA. So make sure you tap into episode 440 and become a Patreon member to get that uncut 2-hour show.
You're listening to the New Old Heads podcast, shot live every Tuesday at twitch.tv/newoldheads and released every Thursday at noon via bringingdowntheband.com. The show is brought to you by Coleman Dental, Indie CD and Vinyl. Support the show directly by becoming a member at patreon.com/newoldheads.
You are now tuned in to the New Old Heads podcast. I am Major 7th. The brothers are in the building. Starting off with my man Jay Moore. How are you, good sir?
Blessed and highly favored. You know the vibes.
I like that. My man Lonegevity and his hand motions. How are you, sir?
Doing all right. How you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. It's always good to see you.
You too.
Thanks. My man DJ Jay Diff. What's happening, man?
Salutations.
No more energy, brothers.
That's about all you're going to get today. You're going to take the greeting how I greet you.
I'm just going to take the greeting how you greet me. You're right. You get what you can get. I feel you.
It is what it is.
Good to see you gentlemen as always. Episode 440. So, if Kendrick let Lil Wayne down, did Wayne just let down his fan base? Because the rap legend Lil Wayne recently released the Carter 6 to mostly bad reviews, and the internet has plenty to say about it. So we're going to watch a video from the company man, the homie Justin Hunt, where he kind of talks about actually how bad this album is, and we can discuss after that.
Wayne seemingly creaked his slitted eyes open just enough to perplexingly tweet a flaccid threat at K-Dot himself. It said, "I just be chilling and they still come for my head. Let's not take kindness for weakness. Let this giant sleep." Now, to be fair, during his absent-minded conversation with Rolling Stone in April in promotion of the Carter 6, Wayne said he didn't remember sending that tweet, just like he said he didn't remember Jay and Ye dropping Watch the Throne, just like he said he didn't know Not Like Us was a complete dismantling of his protege, Drizzy Drake. When Rolling Stone read that tweet back to him, he said, "I sound like I'm talking about the media because I said they. They. Well, I guess that explains it. But from Mike to Plug, it's been an all amateurish 12 months from Wayne, and another signal that the world that once worshipped the one-time rhyme titan had passed him by, and he and his team seemed to be still too detached to get the memo. And yet, hope was still on the horizon. Friday, June 6th has been circled on the calendar since that sticky Cetaphil Super Bowl commercial announced the release of the Carter 6. But after listening to this wrinkled double cup for 2 days, from nauseating beats to cliched rhymes, sadly for us longtime Wayne fans, this craptastic saga continued.
Craptastic.
Yeah, colorful words.
Very colorful.
Right,
very great opening monologue.
I mean, he wasn't playing.
No, he's not playing at all.
This whole thing.
Yeah, I imagine he hates it.
No, he's dead serious. He's dead serious.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah.
Oh, you think he had bars in this intro here?
Yeah.
Boy, he kept moving.
Yeah.
It was good stuff though.
You know what? I don't even want
The
to go.
review, not the album.
I don't even want to go the direction of Dwayne. How this affect? I don't even want to talk about that because Wayne is already solidified as who he is. I really just want to talk about how bad this album is. First and foremost, just maybe some of y'all like it. I'm not going to cast that on you. I didn't think it was good. Are we in agreement? How do you guys feel about it?
Yeah, it's not very good. It's a wheezy grape maybe. So you pretty much have to prove yourself again from here on out because I'm not feeling this. And granted, he's a legend. He's great. You know what I'm saying? I'm just teasing. But anyway, the album holds no merit to his talent and ability to actually create music. It's just not there. It's like, I mean, he has some bars on there. He had a lot of lackluster bars. He had some tries. I actually had discussed this with somebody online. They was like, and this is what songs was he supposed to perform at the Super Bowl if this was it. And I was like, probably the one that features Bono and the one that has the Weezer sample on it.
Snakes ain't always in the grass.
Yeah, those were the songs that were supposed to get the people going at the Super Bowl.
Maybe Andrea Bocelli?
Possibly, or maybe even a Jelly Roll joint. You know what I'm saying? But it's just not, it's not there, especially for him to kind of echo that don't awaken the whatever he said, called himself.
Don't awaken the monster.
The monster. Yeah, this was not monstrous at all. And for him not to capitalize on his artist or previous artist, I don't know what him and Drake's situation is now, but not to have him featured on this album was a fumble. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that, you know, carried the Young Money torch and is going through something right now. And that's going to give you momentum in itself just by featuring Drake. So, yeah, he dropped the ball on this one.
Yeah, Lil Wayne makes music for middle-aged white women.
Yeah, possibly.
You said that pretty strong, too.
I listened to every song up until the stupid holiday song. Have a good time, yeah. Whatever that is, I don't know. And I was just like, then I turned it off. And I was like, who's this for? Who's this for? You know? So,
I think Terry makes a very good point about the fumbling of the bag or dropping the ball, especially with the Drake feature leading up to all the stuff that's happened. But just from the feature selection, even the production, this didn't make sense to me, man. It's a very hard listen for someone who I deem is very legendary, in my personal opinion, but sometimes it just ain't it. And I don't think this is the one. And to Terry basically broke it down perfectly, because there's nothing scary about this album. There's nothing that people should be worried about, or Wayne's coming, or you don't want to test Wayne. Like, none of this album says nothing about that.
Which I don't think that's what that tweet was necessarily alluding to, like he's coming and he's going to drop.
Yeah, maybe not. I just know people said, you know, when Kendrick made the line that I alluded to in the beginning, some people were like, oh man, he don't want to mess with Wayne. I'm like, what? I never believed that.
I mean, what's Wayne? Wayne did what he always does. I don't know. This is the first time that I've listened to a Lil Wayne project in a while. I'm not a Lil Wayne fan. Okay. I just don't like him. I don't think he's not impressive to me. Like, he's okay. He's a great artist. Yeah. Terry mentioned it. You mentioned it. He's a legend, all these things. Wayne doesn't really impress me outside of being featured on a song and rapping really well one or two times. He doesn't say anything that's going to stick with me. I'm going to be like, oh wow, that was the most amazing thing in the world. He just has some semi-clever similes, you know, and some stuff like that every once in a while. But this was worse than what I had expected, though, when I listened to it.
A lot worse. What bothers me about it, too, is literally every feature that he's done leading up to this album coming out was good.
Yeah.
It was fair. Like, I'm ready to hear what Wayne has to say, because every feature I've heard him on in the past, let's say 2 years, it may be shorter, maybe longer, but he's done a very good job representing himself on those singles. So this would be the time to capitalize on the Carter 6 and kind of give you that retro Wayne feel. And another thing that bothers me about it is, why are you not using Manny Fresh? This is the perfect time to reintroduce a Manny Fresh, Lil Wayne situation.
Why do you think that? Why?
Okay, because you just had the 20-year Cash Money reunion. They've been in scene and in shows together, and he just needs something to awaken him. And granted, Manny Fresh's beats haven't been like superb and great in the past, I don't know how many years, but you would think those two together might create a spark that would ignite something and create another movement to add to the one they already had. That's what I kind of was expecting. I thought he would have had a couple songs on there or something. Does he?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't sound like the Manny Fresh we remember at this peak. It was, I knew it was a record, Being Myself, which, I mean, wasn't great, but wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
But that's so much of this album that I feel. I'll just be honest. I've never, sort of like Lone, I've never been a huge Lil Wayne fan. I mean, I always thought the hype was bigger than the execution, especially around the time of Carter 3, which I think is a great commercial radio hip hop album. As far as trying to accomplish that, I think, that was a home run.
Yeah.
And I understood why, there were some records on the Carter 2 I thought were decent, but then like when we talk about the
Carter 2 was dope to me.
I mean, yeah, that's probably the state of the series. That's probably the one I listened to more than anything. Carter 4. I mean, I remember 6 foot, 7 foot, and that was everywhere. But I really can't say anything else that was standing out about that record. And I remember talking on this show about the Carter 5, about being the first time, even not being a fan, I was bored with the Lil Wayne album.
Yeah,
like
this one was boring.
But
I like.
But this one was boring
through.
and just flat out bad. Like to the point where like. You haven't evolved in the last 15 years at all.
I didn't even make it to the Inspector Gadget beat song.
Oh yeah.
No, but
he said even on one of the things he said, I'm never not high.
It comes off
about a lot of drug
it's very clear in this
It
album.
feels like it. It sounds like it.
Because I've one of the things I've said on the show is like I can, about some of the features, even with some of the album cuts he's done with, I don't want to say lesser artists, but artists who do not have the commercial impact that he has. The features, I don't hear the drug abuse in them.
Yeah.
Like I just like that seemed like clear and concise and well done.
Yep. Yep.
Here, I just think they just said, this is Lil Wayne. We can throw anything out there and people are going to like it, even if they don't like it, because I do think there was so much to anoint somebody from the South. And like I said, I think Lil Wayne has a prolific career. I like the Carter 2. The Carter 3, I think, is a top-notch commercial radio hip-hop album. But a lot of the other stuff when they're maybe it's because I listen to so much hip-hop, it's hard for me to be as impressed by Lil Wayne as sometimes other people are. And I do think some of it, there's a little bit of the Emperor's New Clothes with part of Wayne's career, to where it's like, hey, no, look, he really does... he is adorned with these fine robes of lyricism and cleverness. And I'm like, I don't see it.
Yeah. I kind of, and I've stated this on the show before, when they were together as the Hot Boys, I always kind of thought that Wayne would be the one to shine in that situation. Mm-hmm. And obviously he did. He did his thing. He's been mentioned in the conversation of being the greatest rapper alive, depending on what demographic you talk to about it. But, I mean, this is just not leading up or proving that statement. Because when we talk about other legacy artists, like I always bring up Jay-Z. Jay-Z, his approach kind of it matured. It definitely matured. You know what I'm saying? As far as what he was talking about, I seen a video with D1, who's also from Louisiana, and he was discussing about how a lot of people aren't feeling that Wayne is stuck in this same pocket. And he feels like that means there's a shift in hip hop. People want to hear something different, kind of alluding to maybe they want to hear D1 style of rap. And he wasn't saying anything against Wayne. I mean, because that's somebody that represents his hometown. He was actually big up in Wayne, but at the same time, he's like a lot of people's ears and taste for music are kind of tired of the same old thing. And if you're not evolving, and we kind of don't want to rock with it. And we hear the same thing with a lot of the legacy artists that we discuss, like from back in the day, be like, are you excited for such and such album to come in? I'm like, nah, not really. You know what I'm saying? It's the same exact thing. And I also want to address, I seen something pop up. DJ Nate Jeezy said the whole Drake situation. The reason why I thought that would be something that he would do is because it adds to the moment that's still going on that was created by Kendrick and Drake, and he's made mention of knowing what's going on, but then he kind of backplays it. But Drake is your guy, even if they're on different terms or not seeing eye to eye that way. This would just make sense musically. I mean, he had on a OVO chain during the promotion run for this album, so a lot of people thought that might happen, but obviously it didn't.
I think you actually you kind of touched on what I was going to go, the next direction I wanted to go to as it relates to us being in what I think is we're in a unique situation because of our age. I think we're starting to see legends in their wizard phase. Like, how Mike came back and he was Mike, but he still wasn't quite Mike. So we're looking at Wayne now. Some of these older artists, we talk about legacy artists. We've been around to see their apex, but we're also old enough to see them start to fall a little bit. Snoop, on the other hand, I mean, it's just being honest based off this last release. But how do you guys feel about that, us being able to be in that unique position? Because Snoop, to me, is actually aging gracefully with his new project. I don't know if everybody got a chance to listen to it, but it's grown, mature, West Coast hip-hop, good production, and Snoop sounding like his age.
I feel like different artists just choose different paths sometimes. Like I don't ever really foresee Drake having that moment either.
Okay.
In the same way that kind of Wayne hasn't. I feel like Drake is going to do the same stuff over and over for the rest of his career. Whereas like in comparison to, let's just compare Kendrick, because like Kendrick's going to take us through different times in his life because that's the type of artist he is. Snoop has taken us through a lot of different things in his career. He's tried a lot of different things as well. Like he's tried probably more than most hip hop artists, to be honest.
Good point.
But I think it just depends on what type of artist you are. Some people do it. Some people just do what they think is going to work.
When you talk about the Wizards,
yeah,
Mike still made it to the All-Star game in those 2 seasons he played with the Wizards.
I mean,
nothing about this Lil Wayne album is getting him to the All-Star game. Maybe he's not dunking from the free throw, and he's a little slower on the dribble, but Jordan was still Michael Jordan.
It was all fan voting.
It was fans, though.
Fans voting, but you know what? You still
Mike averaged 20-something. That's not.
He still played 82 games as a 40-year-old man. If you're going to talk about somebody being in their Wizards phase, let's talk about what Nas did with King's Disease and Magic, because that's not up for debate at all. Those albums, like I still go back to, when we're talking about an artist in their 40s. Maybe knocking on 50 at this point.
No, he's 50.
50.
Yeah.
So, but Nas has given us pieces of his life.
True.
With Wayne, I think he still thinks we want the bars about his drug use and his poor choices and just sex with random women.
I don't
That's
think
kind of his life, though.
I mean, it is. I guess maybe that's it. But the thing is, maybe that seemed flyer at a certain point. It's like he hasn't. The same way we could say with Drake and okay, we'll just keep it Young Money and Nicki. They struggle with growing up in their music. It's one of those things where it's like you listen to people rhyme about things, and it's like you don't see anything else in the world that affects the content of your art other than the decadence of you being a celebrity. I mean, I understand maybe if that is his life, then hey, he's giving us a slice of his life, and we shouldn't really expect much more.
And that's why he can. That's why there's a limit on how great he can be, in my opinion, because he can't evolve. I mean, he said many times. Justin mentioned it even in this clip that we watched. He constantly says that he doesn't pay attention to anything that's going on around him.
He said that a lot.
How can you evolve as a human being if you're not involved in anything outside of your own self? You can't. And so, like, his music is a microcosm of him. Yes. So it's just what it is.
Yeah, it is. It's who he's been presenting this whole time. I mean, if you think about his discography, he's never really given you any music that makes you emotionally tied to his life outside of what he does musically and being famous. You know what I'm saying? You don't hear a whole lot about Lil Wayne other than that.
I think Wayne has been told for his entire career that he's so nice lyrically. It's just, he feels like he can just do that and it's going to work. Even at this older stage or later stage of his career, he still thinks, well, long as I give him the clever lines and the bars, it's going to translate, because that's what, that's what Wayne fans have always loved.
Yeah, but these lines aren't clever. That's part of the problem, where it's like, is this what you still doing this?
You got me there.
Yeah.
Got me there. But I just think that's part of the mindset. It's like, I can do this because I've always done it, and it's always been received well by my, my core fan base or what have you. So, but to Lone's point, if you don't pay attention to your surroundings and your ecosystem, you're going to eventually just fizzle out, bro. It'll be outdated.
You got to pay attention to something. I thought it was hilarious, though, when he was talking about the album Justin Hunt, and he said that these are pretty much Chat GPT lyrics.
Bruh.
I was like, wow.
Like if ChatGPT is like, ChatGPT, please write me a Lil Wayne song. And that's exactly what it did. No, I think part of it is also like there are artists that I had an affinity for, and maybe when I was a teenager or in my 20s, and now I listen to it and I'm like, wow, that's terrible. You know what was said there?
Yeah,
and maybe it's sometimes it's the content, because like you evolve as a person and you know better. I can say that about Ice Cube and NWA, especially NWA's second album. I listened to the second half of that and I was like, wow, this is really thematically some of the most poisonous and terrible music I've ever heard in my entire life. And our parents and all the people in the church who were against it, they were absolutely right, and we owe them an apology.
Talk about coming full circle,
exactly. But that's what growth is.
Yeah.
So I think maybe this is a weird part for Lil Wayne fans, because it's not so much for someone like me who's just like, okay, whatever, I've liked some of his stuff, but I'm not a fan of Lil Wayne.
Right.
But the fact that his fan base is disappointed, like, that's problematic if you're an artist. If your fan base is like, nah,
this ain't it. Yeah, I saw a lot of people that I know that are huge Wayne fans didn't like it,
and sometimes
openly though, they were open about it. They didn't like it,
and sometimes you don't, and it happens in a way that you can't control. Your fan base outgrows you. Like the people who loved Carter 2, it's like they've moved on in life too, and you haven't grown up and moved with them. And that's a hard thing to do, because a lot of artists, like, they are who they are. You can't expect more from them than that. But sometimes who you are, if you're not moving with your audience, the people who came up with you, like, and plus it's also a different thing. Like, look, if you're 42 years old, you still, are partying and drinking and smoking and just messing with random women all the time. Like, there's a difference between, an artist that's married, has children, and has different kind of responsibilities and has to have a different worldview, because you got to think about the next generation. I mean, I know Wayne has kids, but, I don't know if any of them live with him. And so, like, if you're not taking that kid to soccer practice and, having to talk with him about what's happening in the world right now every single day, sometimes your worldview can be encapsulated just in with the same thing you were doing when you were 24.
Yeah.
Like if you got a wife and kids, you can't have that mindset anymore.
You're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to. I mean, you still see it. Nas had a song about it called, Second Childhood. And I mean, so the way people mature and how they, like I said, I don't work in, the nightclub industry anymore, and I don't really miss it.
Yeah.
I don't really miss it. I mean, like, it was wearing on me to a point that I didn't really understand until I completely got out of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because it is a bubble to where, you're finished with work every night at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And, like, now, mind you, I still had the wherewithal to know that this is not real life.
Yeah.
This is my job.
Yeah.
I still got to make sure the lights stay on and the money's counted and we pay all the taxes and all that other stuff. So that keeps you grounded. But if that's just how you live and you're still doing it, if you're still doing it in your 40s, it's got to wear on you at a certain point.
But shout out to Wayne, still legend.
Yeah, 2 thumbs down.
Yeah, definitely on this one.
Yeah.
Missed your mark on this.
Yeah,
you missed your mark on this one, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, the sharks are always in the water.
Snakes are always in the grass.
And God really is always at the altar.
Yeah, so.
Whether you can see him or not.
All right. Bars.
No, not really.
Yeah, no.
That's the problem.
Thanks to our partners. Dr. Coleman of Coleman Dental is our go-to dentist. He's a longtime Indianapolis arts and music supporter located right in Broad Ripple. Our good friends at Indie CD and Vinyl operate one of the best record stores in North America. Shop new and used in their site or visit them in person. And the best way to support the New Old Heads is to visit our Patreon and become a member. All details on newoldheads.com.
Producer Timbaland has started an AI wave, and apparently he doesn't care what people think about that. So he's going to start he's launched a new label called Stage Zero. It's an AI-influenced entertainment company, and this comes as a result of him experimenting with the AI program Sono.
Suno.
Is it Suno? Sorry. Typo there. I put the O, so my bad. So Timbaland claims that this will lead a new genre of music called A-pop. And he also detailed how the songs for the AI artists are made by putting demos into Suno, which then turn them into voices and melodies without using actual singers or musicians. So he's going to submit some demos. I guess this does the trick and then spits it back out. When I initially saw the AI artist, I said, this is going to be real bad. That was my initial thought.
He did a live a couple days ago with Young Guru. I know Il Mind joined. There was a couple other people that joined on. Ray Daniels, I think.
Yeah, I know Ray.
And yeah, it was like 4.5 hours long. I caught some of it in real time. I made that video that you guys may have saw about it because it was like kind of infuriating listening to the justifications. But this is one particular moment that you picked out, Mike. So let's watch this.
One of the things that one of my guys said was he heard Mickey say something, right? Where he was like, yo, music is hard to make. And I was like, yeah, it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be something.
Are you damn right? It's supposed to be hard.
It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be something you gotta learn. It's supposed to be something that you gotta put a lot of time into.
Yeah.
I'm not with the T-ball. I'm not with the participation award. I'm not with that. This is why we have Grammys. You got to come in this thing and really figure out what the game is, how to make the best music, how to work in the industry. So I'm like, it's supposed to be hard, bro. It ain't supposed to be easy. Now, with that said, if there's certain tools that make it easier, I understand that. My whole thing is just to not replace the human work. Them hours that you got to put in of learning an instrument, all the things that a kid gets from learning guitar, learning piano, learning how to work with people. It's the same thing as sports. It's like sports ain't just for the win. Sports is for you to learn how to work with people, learn how to be under a coach. You, Tim, as the coach of coaching Aaliyah, coaching Genuine, coaching Missy. As great as Missy is, you was the coach. I think that's the point that's getting missed with people not understanding what you're doing. And that's why I had questions, and that's why I came on here.
Somebody said Timbaland be up here stealing people music and training people music.
We already addressed that. Yeah.
No. Guru, I think I did, but it's me. Like,
no.
But it's me. I'm here to upgrade you. Why would I want to train off of something that I'm helping you get better on? You know, like if I had an AI company that you can upload, I can train you. I can't do that.
You still need millions of songs.
I can't train you. I can just listen to your music. I can't do that. I can't.
I just real quick, that's what Suno does. Anyways.
I think you need to make that point clear, Tim, because the music, well, let me say this, the platforms are being trained off of music, but you need to make a separation between you're not doing that versus the rest of the AI is doing that. The rest of the AI is training off of our music.
Okay.
Lone, I could not wait when I saw this to just talk to you about this first. I'm going to kick this to you first. As a creative, as someone that did everything Guru said, you went through the process, out the mud. I saw it. How do you feel about this new AI wave that Timbaland is clearly not backing off of?
I think there's a difference between using AI as a tool and using AI to replace creatives. And that's the short of it. What he is doing is replacing creatives. It will negatively affect the creative economy. I don't have a problem with him working with a singer, or him and a singer working together, or him and a bunch of musicians working together, and then them making a bunch of stuff, and then them making their things and then throwing it in there and then hearing other different versions of it and then making tweaks to it and doing stuff. To me, that's an evolution. That's an evolution of music. That's what a DAW is, like Ableton, Logic. That's different than just having an MPC or something like that.
Serato.
For sure. Serato from just playing records. That's the evolution of it. The difference comes when you want to start a record label and you want to push an actual artist to take up space in a place that is already hard and already exploiting artists. You want to exploit artists even further, push them out even further by using a technology that is simultaneously extracting information and wealth, I should add, that is not paying the artists, and then you're utilizing that and then making something new. This is good for Timbaland.
Yes, 100%.
This is not good for artists.
The creative economy.
The economy in general. This is horrible.
Yeah.
So that's my general thesis on it. So that's how I feel about it. I think there's a way to do it ethically. I think we don't have anything in place to regulate it right now.
Not even close.
And I have problems with the way that he's approaching it.
I think if you watch, I watched, like you said, it was 4 hours, but I wanted to see his reactions to how he was being questioned. Mm-hmm. You know, Guru was very respectful. Nobody was yelling or anything, but as more people started to pop up on the screen, I wanted to look at him and see how he was reacting. And everything that I saw was very nonchalant. It wasn't someone cut a edit up of him going to the bathroom like 25 times. Yeah. In this. Like, he wasn't that engaging, or when people would post certain things, there was no rebuttal really. It's just like, yeah, okay, yeah. And that bothers me because you really believe, like, he really believes what he's saying. Like,
I think look, I don't know Timbaland, you know, like, so I don't want to judge his personal character.
Sure.
But what he's presenting is exploitation. What he's presenting is acting dumber than he is. Like, even the end of that clip where he's like, well, what you're doing is different from what these AI companies are doing. No, it's not. It's not. Nope. And Timbaland knows that. He knows better.
Guru made another great point about the difference between, you know, the concept of sampling records and paying artists, clearing samples so they get their just due, right? Yeah. And he even used Timbaland as his own example. He's like, bro, you flipped I Can't Stand the Rain. That was you being creative and giving the sample clearance and the credit. So even he couldn't say anything to that one because he's like, yeah, I did. Mm-hmm. But just the exploitation, and then you have to think about it from the standpoint of a creative. So now the AI music can be shopped for the commercial, for the ads. Like, you're cutting out a huge part of the system.
Yep.
And there are a lot of people
taking away jobs from a lot of people.
Bro, yes, there's so many people that this affects. Sound libraries, all this type of stuff. People that get placements through these, you know, through these shows or whatever. Those are their creations. Mm-hmm. Now we just plugging stuff in. What are the shows going to do? They're going to say, oh, this is easier. I can just go grab the AI music. I don't have to deal with the producer, splits, royalties, and just put it on the show.
Yeah, this turns into a even bigger music monopoly. Because people are going to follow suit. That's the only thing that I can give him peas on, is being one of the first people in line to create this situation. Other than
to exploit the situation.
That's the only peas that he gets on this. But I mean, a great producer such as Timbaland, again, it feels like he's dropping the ball creatively because he's been in this AI pocket for a long time.
Yes,
he's been leading up to introducing us to his AI artists that he's going to create an album for, I'm sure. And it's just like, I feel like he lost his personal spark, and he's using this situation in order to kind of get some of that back, you know, but he's not using all of himself. He's not in a lab creating a song and having to cut and chop cricket samples now. He's allowing he's allowing a system to do it. So that's where it fails to me. And it is, I don't know, man. It's kind of comparable to where things have gone even in the DJ world. Because I actually seen a conversation online about somebody talking about, well, you can't be really that mad at it because there will be a lot of DJs that weren't DJing if it wasn't for Serato. And that's absolutely true. Mm-hmm. Like, you can put a stack of records in front of a DJ and they wouldn't have an idea of what to do with it. They wouldn't know how to drop a cue on with a needle or nothing.
Sure.
That's all based on innovation, and people have used it correctly.
Right.
But it also opened the doors for a lot of people to just be like, hey, I'm going to DJ now. Just because I can. I don't have to pretty much afford or buy all these records and equipment. I don't have to carry anything. Everything was made easier.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a little different to me personally when we're talking musically and you're literally just eliminating artists altogether. What ended up happening is there'll be AI DJs and it'll eliminate DJs altogether. You know what I'm saying? They'll just, all right, I don't want to pay a DJ. I'm going to get online and find an AI DJ. I'm going to give it the type of music that I want to hear and tell it the style of mixing I want to hear, and I'm going to just let it go.
Yeah.
You don't think that's going to happen?
That does not sound far-fetched at all,
that you've introduced that idea, it's probably, if it's not in the works, it's in the works right now.
That does not sound far-fetched at all,
because somebody just got that idea from you.
Yeah, I mean, but it goes down to the devalue. I've talked about this. We've talked about this, but this is something that I always harp on. It's the devaluation of creatives. In a capitalist system.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. This is what it is. Like, even though Guru's kind of pushing back in this clip, he's not really pushing back.
No, because he wants to know how to do it too. Honestly,
it's just like there was one lady that went on there that kind of just was repping for the creatives, and shouts to her. I wish I knew her name.
Was she the Asian lady?
The Asian lady. Yeah.
I got almost her name.
She actually liked my video that I put out, which is cool. I don't remember her name though, but she went on there and she said what was necessary.
Yeah.
And so whether or not he takes it in, that's cool. But at least somebody represented for the actual physical blood in their veins artists.
Yeah.
About, how this is bad for this is horrible for the creative economy.
Yeah.
Unless there is some type of regulation in place to where, like, to your point, Mike, when you're talking about placements, you're talking about all this stuff.
Yeah.
Movie scores. Maybe we could just do an AI movie score. Why? Yeah.
Fine. Okay, fine. But I want, if you used 0.3% of my music in this thing over here, I want to know it.
Yeah.
I want full traceability and to be able to track that all the way across everything. I want my publishing on everything that touches. I want my master recording on everything that touching. Sure, make it, but you're going to have to break off everybody that was used to make that, and you have to be able to track it.
Yeah.
It's got to be regulated.
The tracking is the part.
Yeah, and this is different. It's not the same as sampling. I know people like to say it's like
they want to so bad.
It's not, and it's bad faith to say that. There is a place for it, and I don't want to take away from the tools that are being created, because the tools make everything better, and that's okay. It makes, I don't care about the tools. Tools are great. Like, I'd rather hit a nail with a hammer than my fist. You know what I mean? Like, these things are important, but like, let's not act like we don't see what's happening. And that's why I have a problem with what Timbaland's doing here. And that's why I have a problem with people that are defending Timbaland. It is in bad faith, and I don't like it.
Yeah, it's because a lot of people are waking up today and they're like, oh, I'm going to be a producer now, and I'm going to just create my whole record label based off of just AI people, and I'm going to put it out, and this sounds like something easy that I can do, especially people that aren't very creative.
Yeah.
That's what kind of hurts a lot coming from Timbaland, an actual creative that's so behind this and is spearheading this movement, but it's going to create a matrix in the music industry that nobody wants to see.
And I think that's part of the conversation too. There's multiple points here. There's the economy of it, right? There is the economy of it, but then there's the other point that you're talking about, Terry, to where, like, we are going down this potentially inevitable path of further devaluating creativity to the point to where, like, creatives aren't going to be able to make money. And if creatives aren't going to be able to make money, that means that we're just going to be consuming a bunch of AI stuff. And are we going to be okay with that in general? Like, are they going to be people that are advocating for this? Are you okay with that? Like, are you okay? Like, are you going to go to the movie to watch the new Transformers and it was made by Bob the Robot? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe. Is it just entertainment? Is that all that it is? Like, is there more that's important than just the consumption aspect of it? Like, how important is the creative nature of the stuff that we are, taking in? How important is that? Like, how much value do we put in that?
And I think artists, producers, singers, rappers, MCs, if you will,
writers,
you have to understand if this is something that you want to do, you're going to have to work to get better. You're going to start off and you're not going to be good. I guarantee if you take Timbaland's, some of the stuff he did when it was in the early part of his career wasn't any good. And that's not a knock on Timbaland, but that's everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody starts out being, there are some people who are just prodigies. Okay. Let's just be real. There's some people who start at, already.
I've taught some.
Yeah. And you're like, wow, this guy's already incredible. But a lot of people, they find themselves creatively by bumping their head and not being good initially. I think that's where a lot of times people who want to get into the creative space, they get frustrated because in their minds, they have in their minds what they want to do, but they can't get it out yet just because they haven't really nurtured the talent to get it out, or it's not as easy as they thought it was, and it's going to be more work.
It's one of the lessons I literally teach in my class that I teach.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the things that we're cutting out is we're like, okay, you're never going to get better. And so even if you find a way to manipulate the AI to fleshing out your ideas, really how much of that is really your idea is just you being able to manipulate the software. Now, mind you, people are going to say, hey, using Pro Tools and a Serato, that is about manipulating software, but you have to already have a certain tool set and an ability. You could, if you could there's somebody who said something about DJing, about why we got to hear all these kind of songs, these certain songs that came out in 2010, and then why do you always got to go to this? I was like, because first of all, you all don't understand how hard it is to DJ for 2.5 to 3 hours. If you just play the 15 songs that are programmed on the radio, okay, that's going to get you through maybe a half hour. What are you going to do for the rest of that time? You have to have the skill set that enables you to DJ for longer. I've seen DJ people who's like, oh yeah, I got my Serato, I learned how to mix, I'm gonna go ahead and rock a party, and after 20-25 minutes they're up there sweating because they don't know what to play after they played all the hot shit. And a computer can only do so much of that for you. I'm using the Serato example, just because that's what I'm most familiar with. But it's going to be the same thing with what is the software called that he's talking about plugging stuff? Suno. It doesn't matter how many upgrades they put into this. If you're not a good producer, if you don't know what key something's supposed to be in, if you can't hear, something is double time or what, I don't know all the terminology, and Lone would be much better at that. But I'm just saying that there has to be something organic that comes from you to make it your own.
I think the argument that we're kind of, again, I think it's two arguments here, because I'm not even like anti it from. The thing is like I'm not even like full anti like people shouldn't be able to make AI artists. That's not even my angle. If you want to mess around and make an AI artist just for the fun of it, and you want to do some stuff too, I just think that there needs to be regulations in place, and there needs to be distinction between to protect the creative class
and disclosure at that. One's like, this is AI generated content.
Yeah. I think there just needs to be that, because people are going to figure out a way. You can't like put it back in the box.
No, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
We just have to protect people, and if we're going to continually exist in this structure of type of society where there is a creative person and they're creating value, we have to protect those people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
This is just scraping the surface though, because this is going to equate to a lot of things in our life, and even more after we're gone. Like, imagine sports teams being all AI characters or robots and things like that, and their ability to do things is based off what the owners can afford, what kind of memory chips or, speed they can actually put in these players. I don't see that not happening. It's like everything's going to happen, things that you never thought of. Hell, this is Terminator and Matrix level shit. Stuff that was made in the 80s, and you know what I'm saying? This stuff is coming to fruition. I mean, it's inevitable, and it's like, to your point, we got to learn how to use it without pretty much compromising the artist's intelligence and creativity as well, rather than just relying solely on this AI to come up with something.
I like the idea of, I think Jay, you both said it, talking about the specifics and disclaimer, because it gets very spooky when the AI artists and the regular creatives are on the same chart. They're in the same, everything's the same. Nothing different from it. It doesn't say that it's AI. That right there is extremely dangerous. And I think we've all alluded to it. The scariest part about it is it's too late. Already out.
And it's only going to get better.
It's only going to get better. Yeah. Jay, you mentioned still having to have some type of, skill set as you submit to Suno or whatever. I honestly think as this progresses, that's not going to matter. I think it's going to be more about what you can type in and how well you can describe what you want versus having the talent and then using it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, that's what AI is. Period.
Yeah, that's what it's doing.
So I don't even think the talent part that's what's already being cut out. So it's like, how well can I type a prompt and then boom, we off to the races.
I mean, because it might just come down to, well, when we had the conversation about type beats.
Yeah.
Where built into the software is Timbaland type beat. I'm gonna put my
that already
bad
exists.
keystrokes in there and my prompts, and then it's like,
You can
okay,
already do that.
I want to, yeah. Well, see, there you go. I'm already behind then.
Yeah. You can use that. And these companies are getting sued. So it's like, you can go in there and type like, I want this type of feel from this type of thing, and they'll go out and they'll look and they'll make it. It already exists. This has existed for a while. I'm curious what exists that we don't have access to.
That part.
And I'm also curious about the paywall that's going to be behind this. Like if you want to make an AI artist, here's another element of it. Let's say you do want to make an AI artist. Let's say all this is ethical, which it's not. Let's say this isn't exploitation, which it is. It's still paywalled. So only people that have the money that can spend the credits to sit here and prompt it over and over and over again are going to be able to utilize and have access to the stuff that can make the music that way.
Man, as it gets more popular, prices go up.
And
it's a music monopoly.
Yep. Do you think Timbaland should be held? Do you think we should? Let me rephrase that. Do you think we should question his loyalty to the creative process now, with him being such a staunch believer in it and not backing out of it? Like, how does this make you look at him moving forward?
You know what? I think capitalism makes people think, if it's not me, it's going to be somebody else.
Yep.
That's fair.
That's a lot of what this is.
That's why I gave him his P's for that. And that
that's
only.
fair.
You know what I'm saying? For being one of the first people to do it. But yeah, this is going to create a couple of new categories musically. Of course, the AI music category.
I don't even think that's like a thing to give peas about, though. Like,
it's just being somebody on the forefront in order to pretty much capitalize on it. And I'm not saying that means it's a good thing to give some IPs for, but I would rather, I can't say would rather, but I would hate to see somebody come up just from nowhere with this situation, rather than somebody that's actually been in the music business, should actually understand why it's important that you probably shouldn't rely on it that much. But I don't know.
No, I can, yeah.
But when I
kind of understand.
But when I say that, I'm not really. That's why I had to throw the caveat of capitalism in there, because I'm not really giving them peas for it, because the dope dealer says the same thing. He's like, hey, they're gonna buy this dope. They might as well get it from me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like when it comes down to even me, like as I sit here, like there are different, like an idea that's formed in your head, being able to physically do it in a particular type of way. If somebody can go out there and be like, yeah, I wanted to do and they can, like, I think the tools are cool. I think the tools are cool. I think the tools are great. It still takes effort. It's a little bit different as you approach it in that type of manner. I just think that the support needs to be behind the creatives that are doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you can get up there and be like, yo, can you make, let me be able to go like, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, but do this in like key of F, and I messed up that last note. I want that one to be, actually change these two notes to be up an octave and then come back down and stuff like that. To me, that's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tool to me. Like just because the person can't physically use the thing. All right, cool. That's their limitation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that is significantly different than what is being proposed.
Yeah.
So LA is on fire.
Again.
But recently, Doechii at the BET Awards used her platform, and I think she won Album of the Year, so congrats to her.
I know she won Female Artist of the Year.
Okay.
I think she won
Hip Hop Artist. I
think she won Hip Hop Album of the Year too. I think that's the video I saw, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Either way, congrats.
I don't watch award shows, but yeah, she used her platform at the BET Awards to speak out against the Trump administration and its use of military force and the ICE protests, as she says, literally right outside. So let's watch this little video.
I do want to address what's happening right now outside of the building. There are ruthless attacks that are creating fear and chaos in our communities in the name of law and order. Trump is using military forces to stop a protest. And I want y'all to consider what kind of government it appears to be when every time we exercise our democratic right to protest, the military is deployed against us. What type of government is that? People are being swept up and torn from their families, and I feel it's my responsibility as an artist to use this moment to speak up for all oppressed people. For Black people, for Latino people, for trans people, for the people in Gaza. We all deserve to live in hope and not in fear. And I hope we stand together, my brothers and my sisters, against hate, and we protest against it. Thank you, BT.
Doechii.
Talk about using your platform.
Yeah, I like that, man. A handful of questions here. There's a lot that we can talk about. Obviously there's a lot going on here, but let's talk about the moment versus the movement. So is Doechii's speech, is it a singular powerful moment, or does it signify a renewed, more direct push from hip hop artists against perceived government overreach and authoritarianism, as she kind of suggested?
Single moment.
You think so?
Yes. I want to have more hope. I really do, as far as artists and their ability to affect change. But there's so much noise to cut through. Not only if you're somebody who watches the news, but if you're somebody who's consuming art. Doechii's music, I think, is thoughtful. I think there's room for her to grow, just like there is for any artist. But I feel like what she said there could find its way into her art. I just know that it's so hard for people. A lot of people, they're like, hey, I'm not a politician. I'm just an artist. And I don't begrudge a lot of those people because I don't want them to speak on things that they are not learned about.
Right.
Because there's some people who are going to find it problematic, that she said anything, because they're like, hey, those people are breaking the law, who were sweeping up in these ICE raids. There's going to be people who come from that. And then there's going to be people
civil offense
who are upset that she mentioned the trans movement, and then of course, if there was anything particularly brave, it was saying anything about Gaza, because I don't think anybody in entertainment is inclined to say anything about what's going on there.
True.
So I don't think there's enough of an influence, because I don't think, honestly, capitalism will tell you, like, hey, it's best if you keep your mouth shut. That's good for Doechii, but what's good for Doechii is not good for me, struggling artist who does not have an award, who does not have a Grammy, and who does not have a #1 album.
I think Jay's right with the moment. And kudos to her for having the wherewithal and the guts to say it, because a lot of people are being we're in a censorship era where you can't say certain things, and for her to step up there at this platform and do it, as Birdman would say, I respect it. I'm curious to see if there would be, I guess, any ramifications for her professionally post this comment. What comes from this? How does the fan base react? How is she perceived?
Because her fan base is gonna love it.
No,
that's
actually a good point. Yeah, her fan base is gonna rock with it regardless. You're right, but we know how this goes. Sometimes when somebody jumps out the window per se and says something that's not deemed correct, there's usually ramifications for that. So I'm very curious to see on a professional level outside of her core, if any of that changes a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of just agree with you guys' points for the most part. I don't see this creating a big movement or people falling in line in order to kind of rage against the machine, because everybody's thing now is to pretty much fall in place anyway.
Yeah,
there is no raging against the machine. Is you're solidifying your allegiance with political parties now, and people just subscribe to that. Whatever they say goes as a whole. And if you have friends on both sides, or even you look online, whatever this person subscribes to politically, that's the only thing that they agree with. And I've seen it on both sides, even with this happening, even with the riots or protests going on in LA. They'll be like, well, what about this or what about that? That's why I don't see this being a big movement for anybody. It's just a moment. It's something that she did. We've seen stars do this plenty of times, and it doesn't lead to anything that actually helps aid or support what's actually going on. So,
yeah, that second part. I mean, I think it's a great statement.
Yeah.
But that's really kind of all that it is. Shouts to all the people that are actually there and are actually protesting ICE and are actually putting bodies on the line, if you will. some of the optics about all that stuff is kind of messed up. You knew the fact that they're flying Mexican flags. You knew that was going to be a contentious point for conservatives to be like, oh, we'll go back to culture is different than, these other things,
True.
So, but, yeah, I kind of agree with you there. A lot of people will say that music is just for fun, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of goes into what we're kind of alluding to in a way. But hip hop music has influenced and has a long history of social justice issues, talking about them, addressing them. Jay, you kind of already mentioned this. I know we've talked about that, but I know we don't necessarily expect it from artists, but is there a responsibility from certain artists and artistry in general to put a voice behind some of these movements?
Only if you're prepared to do it. I just don't think, when Chuck D is, let me rephrase that, is, you could take Chuck D away from the microphone on the stage and ask him about what's going on in different parts of the world and different parts of this country, and you'd be able to have a well thought out, nuanced conversation about it. I don't know if there is a situation right now. Maybe there are some artists that do have that wherewithal to do so, but we don't talk to them particularly often. Maybe there's going to be some people who want to talk to Doechii now about this. I hope if they do, she's prepared to have the conversation. I'm not expecting her to, because once again, I feel like this was something very much of the moment. Like the protests were going on outside of the building where they were having this award show. Right. I'm surprised it wasn't moved or canceled or something, because these are the type of things that can shut down an entire city. So it's just so hard now to expect anything, particularly from hip hop artists. I'm not, when I see who we have out here and who's listened to and who has a voice, I'm glad. Look, I saw the part where they awarded the best female hip hop artist, and I'm glad Doechii was there to say something, because I don't think any other people who were nominated, maybe I take that back because Rhapsody was nominated, but everyone else, I was like, no, it was just going to be like, hey, thank my whoever publicist and my record company and new single coming out on the 19th. That's all we were going to get. And honestly, that's all a lot of them are prepared to do. So once again, having nuanced conversations about complex issues, I've said it before, a lot of people are not able to answer the follow-up question. And the thing is, I'm not expecting that from artists, because a lot of times we don't get that from the political pundits who are on quote unquote news stations.
Sure.
So I can't really be upset at an artist who doesn't have the ability to answer a follow-up question about the protest, about ICE, about Gaza, even about, someone's sexual identity, because that can be complicated if you haven't done the work or the research.
It's about the messenger. The bar is so, in my personal opinion, the bar is so low. I don't have expectations as it relates to rappers. I'm just being honest. I don't see anybody out there where I'm like, yeah, man, I sure hope they ask him or ask her about XYZ, because I know they'll be able to articulate themselves and follow-up questions, be able to handle those. I don't see that.
Do you think, before you jump in, Terry, do you think that, do you want that? Like, do we want people, do we want voices in these spaces that can speak on that? Like, look, Vic Mensa is he's not huge. Vic Mensa talks about this stuff on a regular basis. Locksmith.
D1, we talked about
D1, yeah. There's lots of artists that do, but do we want, is that something that we want?
I think if it's done, when Jay used Public Enemy as an example, I think that's dope, because Chuck, I know to his point, Chuck is valid with what he's talking about. Even with, you could take Ice Cube for an example. Ice Cube, you can have a conversation with him about certain things and know that it's going to be legitimate. He's not going to be thrown off by questions. We've seen him have those types of conversations. He's also older, to my other point about the crop not being that good.
But even when Ice Cube was younger, that's the thing. Like, there was a time when knowledge really was pushed in hip hop.
There you go.
Okay, sometimes the people were wrong, but at least they had an answer.
Yep.
So you would have these, panels and symposiums, if you will, that would have KRS-One and Ice Cube and Ice-T, and shout to Wise Intelligent from the Poor Righteous Teachers. You'd see him. I'm just saying that, like, if you just grab 5 rappers now who are popular, I don't trust that they'd have anything particularly useful to say.
Yeah,
and
they're
that's
not going to be on Teen Summit.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing you would, if there was still a Teen Summit, I would never invite any rappers on.
Yeah.
Nah.
Outside of speeches, what is the role, responsibility of artists like Doechii to bring structural, crucial attention to issues that might otherwise be underreported or misunderstood by mainstream media? Is there a role and a responsibility for artists to do that? I know it's similar to the previous question, but
I mean, I don't like to put the responsibility on an artist unless their heart is really in it. I don't think there's no reason to do it just to do it to get some peas and go on about your day and say, hey, I made a stance. And
then you're
and
like, then you're like Nancy Pelosi
exactly.
kneeling on the X
with the kente cloth.
Yeah,
come on, man.
I think that's unnecessary. But again, I don't like the message to stop at what an artist said, and that's what happens when a lot of people consume this. They hear whatever the artist said, and that's all the education they do for themselves. They don't know anything else other than what happened because of what she said.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And I mean, somebody brought up it's literally going on outside of these awards.
That's what she said.
If this was as polarizing or affecting these artists as such, they would have not been in this award show.
There we go.
Exactly.
There we go.
They would have been out on the street, helping the people that are protesting, because of what's going on. So that's why it's kind of smoke and mirrors a lot of times. I'm going to use my platform to say something, but I'm not actually going to do something.
Do you think that that's, and this could go to anybody, but do you think that there's a place for that though? You know, like, is there a place for people that maybe can't physically do specific, like I can't physically protest, right? If that's the thing, right? But I can be a voice and an amplifier.
Yes.
Is what is the trade-off there? You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think when you, especially when everything jumped off in 2020, Jay-Z and Beyonce were bailing protesters out of jail. They couldn't be out there on the streets with them.
Yeah.
But, you know, they were still part of the movement, if you will. Yeah. And they drew a line in the sand. And that's why a lot of people, especially on that country music side, don't like Beyonce.
No, they don't. They don't like her either. They don't like Doechii. The people that don't like or not going to agree with what she said already don't like her.
Yeah.
That's why it doesn't really matter as far as when it comes to losing fans or things of that nature.
Yeah. So, because they're ways where sometimes a celebrity's attention is all you need. It might be because it might be, if you bring attention to something that affects a lot of people, it might affect you personally. Like let's just say if I became super famous and I decided I wanted to bring a particular level of attention to Alzheimer's disease, you know, is that helping a lot of people? But it's also because it's affected me and my family, you know, to a point where, like, you know, we're going through this way too much. You know, it's just something that's in our family that, you know, that affects people. But, you know, if I am as famous as Jay-Z and I can start fundraising and bringing attention to it, and maybe somewhere in that fundraising, there's a cure, at least a treatment, even if I started off because it affects my family, then it helps so many other people. So sometimes, you know, we can't question people's motivation for trying to do things. We just have to look at the overall effect.
Yeah, there's not going to be a whole lot of what's his name? Wilbert Brumfley. What's his name? Wilbert.
Oh no, you're talking about diabetes.
Hubert Cumberdale.
Yeah, no. That guy.
Wilford Brimley.
Wilford Brimley. Yeah. That's his name. Yeah, I don't. People ain't as open about exposing, or not even just exposing, but, you know what I'm saying, creating situations and awareness for things, because it's all about the metric, the visual metric of this artist. They live in that. They don't care nothing about being a philanthropist in that, you know what I'm saying, in that realm. Yeah. But that would be awesome if they did. And to your point about Jay-Z and Beyonce, what they're doing, that is definitely put a red dot on their back.
Yeah.
Because if you're not doing something that one side agrees with politically, they automatically demonize you for everything that you do. It doesn't matter if you're doing anything right. They're going to find something that's wrong with it. And that's on both sides. You know, it's not just one sided, but there's certain people that grab on it a whole lot more than one. But yeah.
You know, and I'm just glad, you know, at least I didn't hear anything about this where everybody else who got up and was like, I want to say something about the protest too. It was like, because they thought they saw Doechii get a whole bunch of applause. Yeah. It's like, let's not be bandwagon about things like this, especially if it seemed like, I don't know, because when you almost see her with the statement that she made, there was almost a little bit of a nervousness until she got into the flow of it.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes it does take a level of bravery because, hey, at the end of the day, she's still just getting started.
She is.
You know, and for you to say anything about the things that you talked about, maybe outside of the transgender thing, because a lot of times people just don't want to mess with that one way or the other. When you take a stand or a side, when you pick a side early in your career, this could affect, you know, her placements. You know, I already hear her music in commercials and things, and they're going to be somebody who say, nah, maybe this time let's not use Doechii.
That's a fair point.
You know, and so like I will, even if she's not willing to answer the follow-up questions just yet, I will, I do commend her on her bravery.
Yeah, I mean, Kanye, it didn't really affect Kanye until he affected himself, essentially. I mean, when he took his stance, or whatever you want to call it, but he also flipped. He went heel on this whole situation that he had pretty much created at one point in time. But he wasn't overly political either, though.
Well, yeah, I do remember.
That takes away what we talked about with Terry's point. Once you do that, then there goes your authenticity. Everything is out the window. I don't believe you. I can't believe anything that you say.
But even after, and like I said, there's just something, sometimes these things get swept under the rug. I remember when Kanye said the thing about George W. Bush after Katrina.
That's what I was talking about specifically.
Yeah, because, you know, it was maybe a week after he was on that, I want to say Newsweek or Time, the smartest rapper in America. He was never on any of those covers again. You know, he had an endorsement with Pepsi, and we didn't see much of that.
True.
And I just remember he performed at the NFL kickoff. There's some booze in that audience. I remember these things, and I'm just saying, with what she said, there's going to be some people who were fans or maybe on the fence or were willing to get behind her on something on a financial level who are going to make different decisions now because of her statement. That's where the bravery comes into play.
Yeah,
Facts.
Because she could have just said, I want to thank Top Dog and all my fans, new single, and check out my video, and it could have been the end of it and walked off stage just like everybody else probably did that night.
NewOldHeads.com for all the education you need this year. If you see it, like it, subscribe, hit any bell for notifications. Also sign up, likes. We need all that. Don't forget Patreon, where you can get our exclusive, unedited, full episodes. We appreciate your support, and as always, we'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Yeah.
In a minute.
Go Pacers.